Hello, Internet! I'd like to send a message to the Deep State Wiccan, OTO, and Illuminati ritualistic chucklebaits with your tarted-up shrieking banshee broads and snark-chiseled bug-eyed pervs, commies, anti-foot soldiers, misguided fake hippies, hippies that never reached adulthood after all these years, and your Borg minions about the ineffectiveness of your magics and glamories, entrancements and spells, conniptions and fits wielded against President Trump. He is the Hierophant acting as the white magician fool, avenging the lightning-struck tower by dethroning the Shadow King tyrant weakling, and trumps every one of your silly court cards that you play. You are minor arcana, bit players, antagonists in a Shakespearean melodrama who get their comeuppance one by one. This is the archetype level cosmic drama, and you can't possibly win. Don't you watch movies? He first leveraged his white magics against you in the ongoing presidential gambit with the WWE corporate haircut archetype ritual. Now, for those of you who do not know what a corporate haircut is, let me give you a brief description. When you get a loan, you put up collateral. In the event of a default on the loan, the collateral is seized, and the haircut is the difference between the market value and the risk-driven loan value. McMahon played the false emperor major arcana archetype, the emperor king reversed, a shadow king tyrant and weakling. And Trump played the supposed fool magician and soon-to-be new emperor king who was going to knock him off his ill-begotten throne and give him a haircut, so to speak. A good theatrical psychodrama ritual contains the symbols and archetypes and pointers to the magical event which is willed and given energy for it to occur in the future through analog events charged into a cone of power and intent and released at the height of the ritual, the corporate haircut. A superbly muscled all-American black alpha male had Trump's back, and a shifty-looking hulk of a foreigner had the false emperor corporate bodyguard duties for McMahon's archetype. The characters in the archetypal play and melodrama mirrored the factions in the real world. The global terrorism of the criminal MWO versus the raw patriotic muscle of the U.S. people. He had laid out the ritual of his scalping you clowns during his presidency back then, and you had no clue that this was telegraph symbolism and steganography, the covert intelligence art of using newspapers and media to pass messages or challenges to your enemies or allies in the open by pointing at the moon, so to speak, or conduct a powerful psychopomp ritual in the wide open. At the finale of this ritual, he scalped the corporate bad guy archetype and removed all his hair while he kicked and screamed his denials and then proceeded to take over his enterprises. Sound familiar, clowns? Hundreds of millions of brains processed that ritual and gave it power with their emotions. The white magic circle was cast and would turn your dark magic circles into nooses about your very necks. You could prance around in your silly costumes that bequeath no real power, supplicating to your feral gods and controlling demons, swinging your censers, playing at some kind of mock religious theater in your perverse orgies and debasements of innocence, and making asinine proclamations of your supposed magical power and will, but the only real power you have is the power of death. But hey, we all have that power if you put your little brain to the matter. It ought to scare you, really. Mind you, it doesn't control us, the children of the Almighty, as we have it under control, unlike you lot. There is just a gaggle, or as they call it in the case of crows, a murder of you, a small number, and due to your ubiquitous lack of authentic charisma in your Borg collective, you can wield about as much differential power as a fart to a prairie tornado. Furthermore, you have to generate any ritual power through sacrifice of an innocent life or horrific debasement to cause massive adrenaline pumpage, which then breaks down and converts to adrenochrome, one of your favorites for biopsychic powers, which you do not have naturally, like some of us who have not cut the primal connection with the Godhead and allow intellect to become prideful ruler of all our actions and direction. Your collective archetype is the dark trickster. It does not seek to transform as the magician fool does. It just seeks destruction of great men, but does not want to wear the mantle of his responsibilities. It wants no responsibilities. It only wants to do enough work to wreck everything for others. Radical lefties and collectivists, this is the archetypes you play out in the current cultural theater over the internet and in the mainstream media. It is an archetype incapable of transformation, yet claims that as its primary goal. That is hypocritical, and that is losing. A few years back, your frontman dude, the fake pharaoh from Chicago, the long-legged, limp-wristed, beta-mailed Mac Daddy, and Captain Chucklebait is doing his rounds on late-night shticks to pump up his failing presidency And Citizen Trump has been trolling him on social media over his fake birth certificate. So the fake pharaoh goes all ghetto banger rap clown and does a drop the mic shtick after saying the difference between him and Donald Trump is that Trump will never be the president of the United States. So ex-pres what's-his-name thinks he just counter-trolled the master. I am sure his nads ascended to just below his breastbone right after they shrunk to the size of two BBs as he handed over the proverbial keys to the White House in January 2016. By the way, for all you Bader clowns thinking the White House is racist, a guy frickin' named Mr. White donated the land and the house to the government. Jesus, some of the things you idiots think you know makes you absolutely insufferable to be around. In the meantime, Trump the citizen is throwing his lavish parties, to which you reprobates got invites, had your grubby little meat hooks out for a fat check from Mr. Trump, and gorged on the alcohol and food and beautiful people. A little inebriated and you would start flapping your gums and revealing things. A little detail here, a snippet of data there. Oh, Don, did you hear that so-and-so and such was with this person and that person? All kinds of gossip floated by. Trump kept track, and what he didn't know he could conjecture. They were trying to ingratiate themselves with him, and the good Lord saw fit to arm Donald Trump with a great fortune that he wielded against them like kryptonite, weakening them by exposing themselves to him in their quest to get another fat check. He would later call in his loan or contribution, so to speak, and you would do his bidding. He scares the living bejesus out of you because he knows who you really are and how you think and the mechanisms of your graft. A street corner hooker is more honest about peddling her wares than the lot of you deep state bought and sold gas bag politicians and compressional reprehensitives. While you were intoxicated with other people's money, alcohols and elixirs and potions and powders, he remained sober as a judge and sharp as a tack while he gathered intel on your high crimes, and in your arrogance assumed him to be just another rich clown, a John for you to fleece with your lackluster performance and gorge at his buffet. Consider this when reading the righteous outrage in his tweets. He knew where the skeletons were buried before he became POTUS. Probably decided to run due to this deep inside knowledge of high crimes and misdemeanors. So the compressed press gets in a snit he was trolling their chosen one. And so they hold this big lavish dinner. And and these were a series of snide remarks, not the good old toasting humor of Toastmasters of the past like Johnny Carson or Dean Martin, but just vituperative provocation. Don Rickles is a teddy bear in intent compared to your rabid lot, but Mr. Trump knows most of you are a bunch of prevaricating gas bags. He was Batman and you thought he was just Bruce Wayne. It only galvanized him further. You rotten bunch and those of you have deluded with your daily spell weavings in the compressed press think he was running for president as an ego trip. He wasn't. He was running to save the republic from being stolen out from under the noses of people of all colors who built it. And it was being stolen by the transactional insertionalist cabal, the New World Order. But Citizen Trump had your numbers. He knew your weaknesses and was awaiting when the yin bitches had waxed powerful and arrogant and unleashed their final steps to kill off the U.S., the only unconquered people on the face of the planet. He would then enter the arena and provide contrast to enable your own undoing in the public commons. Unmasked and hoisted on your own petard. The wheats and tares separated of their own volition. If you agitprop-spewing journalists were so bloody smart as you entertain yourself with the thought of, you would not waste your precious time here on this blue marble in a career chasing puffed-up projective lies about Russian collusion, which is only meant to deflect from the real criminals, your Queen Jezebel and her molester husband and their raft of henchmen and cronies and harpies. It is hilarious that Trump gets you all jacked up and you chase after his Twitter white rabbits like the Keystone Cops chasing a dog who stole a sausage all over town, falling all over yourselves in your rabid frenzy to keep up with all the corn rings and head fakes and leading you down blind alleys to disappear suddenly through a hidden trapdoor. This is hilarious stuff he lays on your sorry and ineptly unstrategic nor discerning butts. President Trump waggles his left hand and you go all cross-eyed babbling about it in the compressed press while the magician's right hand is getting all the magic of MAGA done. You can't keep up with the steganographic prestidigitation of the master. You're a friggin' mess and it is glorious to behold. Collectively, if I had a dime for every one of your wrong-headed prognostications, I could write a check to pay off the national debt. It is called the U.S. Department of Winning, kiddies. Get used to it. At the inauguration of President Trump, during a key point in his speech, his bodyguard came to formation in full dress uniform, sharp as a tack behind him. The U.S. military had the back of the new president. They knew the purge at the top of the military of men who had performed outstanding service for this country and were true patriots by ex-pres what's-his-name was of a purpose counter to the Republic. And so word on the street is that they recruited President Trump to be the spearhead to restore the Republic and remove the traitors who trafficked humans, children, hard narcotics, and terrorism from amidst her. President Trump has allowed effective execution on the battlefield using local in-time data and intel to occur maximum damage and kill ISIS. He has withdrawn U.S. forces from the region as he knows what is really happening on the ground. The terrorist cells have been infiltrated by highly trained operatives who then target them for assault and annihilation by high-tech specialized and networked micro-teams of so-called super soldiers. Militarily, when these micro-teams of high-tech super soldiers destroy a target, they come in with a small number of multidisciplined, digitally networked with telemetry, sensor, and other battlefield awareness technology. Soldiers who control enormous amounts of air and mobile land power, with each handling a specialty and cross-assisting the other team members. They can execute assaults and take out terrorist facilities in minutes, seconds sometimes, leaving the building unusable rubble, enemy fighters dead, and equipment useless for further combat. They have highly advanced weapons. Imagine you are listening to the recruitment sloganeering of terrorist Muhammad, the head honcho, and you are standing on the street corner with some other locals and a couple of shady clowns from Muhammad's goon squad, and he is getting all fired up with his jihad bluster and idiocy. A small drone comes in before you can react, shoots out a puff of highly explosive gas when its AI recognizes Muhammad's ugly puss and locks in the target, and the directed explosion blows Muhammad's head right off without injuring anybody else or even shattering the glass next to him. Do you really think you want to fight against someone who could do that to you in an instant with such precision? As they see the headless, crumpled corpse that just seconds before was blustering and fuming about his jihad serial murdering spree he wanted them to join in, Muhammad's goon squad are rapidly thinking of finding a new line of employment, and the locals are skedaddling back to their homes, certain they do not want to be amongst those who will meet such a fate. Now, to win the conflict, you no longer have to inflict collateral damage. Targeting with precision at a critical moment is more humane and effective than leveling a village via firebombing to separate from their mortal coil the small percentage that would remain a threat regardless. The survivors will understand the futility of mounting an offensive, and the mouthpieces performing and recruiting for evil are removed surgically from the battle space. Remember the glowing orb when he went to Saudi Arabia? This was more white magic. He handed off the fight, made it an issue of local honor to some 40 Muslim countries, and formed an alliance where Israel developed the high-tech weapons with Saudi money and deployed them against Middle Eastern terrorists backed by Iranian money. This freed U.S. forces to return from deployment. He is strategically waging peace while you deep state black magicians and warmongers continue to attempt a worldwide conflagration for your dark master who lives in power on a Sunday afternoon to stroll through the ripped and torn bodies of minions have provided for him to feast on. When that coffin lid slams shut, he will feast on your souls. Will you have the foresight to plead your case to Jesus before you finish your ascent into the sewage gutter of the metaphysical universe, torn apart by the fire of the quantum foam, dissolving your essence from the book of life, enduring legions of insidiously wretched evil intelligences devouring every last drop of your emotions as your soul screams in agony? Another public symbol, an amulet, if you will, and aptly named considering the root of the word MAGA, is the MAGA red hat. Did not three magi come to witness the birth of the Christ child? This symbolic amulet, worn by patriots, defenders, and supporters and enthusiasts of President Trump, is like a matador's cape to a raging bull. We have gathered ragtag in the new counterculture, replacing the old and stale and no longer counterculture, whose stalwarts have aged into the new Victorian prigs who need a bloody fainting couch at the latest outrage they amplify to the point of driving them mentally into an arch of hysteria. Get the recoilless sphincter rewinder ready, folks. Soy Boy and his trollop had a simultaneous conniption fit sphincter blowout. That amulet, a bright signal that drives the gossip mongers and hypnotized troglodytes rabid, is the beautiful and bold MAGA baseball cap. It is like a crucifix to a vampire, a silver bullet to a werewolf, holy water sprinkled on a possessing demon. A symbol of love of America and its people, mom, apple pie, family, and baseball, alongside the working man who wears such a cap in his daily labors. A symbol of the peoples of the commons of these United States. Simply wearing one in the presence of one of the legion in the thralls of the collectivist identity politics, gossip mongers, and dark magicians will send them into an unreasonably apoplectic fit, as spittle will fly as they froth, fume, and bluster in assault of lies and insults at the wearer, and often attempt bodily harm as the demonic energy subsumes them and they become an organic portal for another's will and implanted entrainment to hypnotic suggestions. They are operating from a number of dangerous false premises, but the one that perplexes them the most is this. In their pursuit of their ideological paradise of gulags and death for those who refuse assimilation into their Borg collective, they only have identity as legion. This is a hallmark of the identity politics entrainment gambit. Those entranced by it do not understand the sovereign heart and mindset nor sensibilities of a free and sovereign citizen, due to being severed by their intellect, keeping them enthralled with its continuous chatter and illusions from their core individuality. You must be as them, or you are a threat, an unknown, an invader of their hive, and they will attempt to destroy you. They are archonic. They erroneously believe if they can generate enough fear in the public square that this visual amulet will disappear from their view and subsequently reduce support for President Trump. In this failure to understand the dynamic of the wearing of the MAGA hat as a defiant symbol against their collectivist usurpation and attempted theft of the wealth of the USA, is the failure of the Jackal Pack mindset to understand that the ruggedly individual Wolverine mindset is not afraid of the whole lot of them and has them surrounded whether the jackals know it or not. Now the transactional insertionalists of Wall Street and its global subsidiaries are in a panic. Their carefully crafted deception of supposedly creating wealth by moving other people's money around has only created paper digits and debased the currency. More and more paper Federal Reserve dollars with a decreasing ratio of production of goods means they keep clipping that dollar's value in your wallet or savings. You have to hammer a nail, build a house, tame some wilderness, mine a mineral, chop a tree and process it to lumber, engineer a machine, and make or sell a product or service to generate sweat equity wealth as order out of chaos. Shuffling paper from an inbox to an outbox to an inbox is not anything other than theft of sweat equity, using no sweat but instead by spells, the contract's words, and packs, the contract's debts. President Trump said about retooling the economy from Wall Street to Main Street. Sweat equity would rule the U.S. economy again and leave the transactional insertionalists taking their corporate haircut. After all, what is printed paper with some ink signatures on worth on the open market, or indeed a survival scenario as barter for real food and hard goods, fuel, weapons, and ammo? This is not a tangible, fungible asset. It is bum fodder in that it was generated to extract sweat equity with no work involved. Fraud ab initio. A slothful, greedy, and lazy rotten bunch you are. This retooling of the U.S. economy to a Main Street economic engine, the true heartbeat that made the country great to begin with, meant raw energy, manufacturing and production, infrastructure upgrades, and construction, and cutting out the paper shuffling, middleman, administrative, transactional insertionalists via tariffs, and cutting the Gordian knot of regulations strangling real progress. Those paychecks would be spent locally at American mom and pop businesses and infuse the local economies with vibrant market energies and not be diffused into the already too deep pockets of oligarchs internationally. Each local transaction accumulated taxes to the Treasury to improve the nation's bottom line. Returning troops to home soil as well boosts local economies as soldiers and officers spend their paychecks locally at car dealers and shops and purchase services from local trades and craftspeople. The local circulation of money makes these areas more vibrant, people are working and supporting families, and counties have money in their coffers for road and recreational parks, playground and community common spaces upkeep, schools and infrastructure upgrading. President Trump was a brick wall to their theft of the most valuable thing ever created on the face of the earth, the United States of America. They are still hooting and hollering like the intellectually studied, pridefully sinful brats they are. It is glorious to behold the wretched driveling of malignant narcissists. The great unmasking, the apocalypse, in the commons, continues forward. It is called winning MAGA.